17 years ago, I got married. It was one of those chaotic, beautiful days that move way too fast for your brain to process. Some things are vivid. Others? A complete blur. But one moment, one messy, sticky, slightly ridiculous moment, has stayed with me. Or rather, it came back to me 17 years later, with a twist. Let me walk you through it. I was 23. My husband was 31. We'd been together a few years and decided to do the whole big wedding thing. Rustic venue, fairy lights, mismatched table settings, all the trends before Pinterest made them clichés. The ceremony was lovely, even though I immediately clocked that my husband was a little buzzed. I knew that look. He had a specific kind of relaxed smile that came out after a couple shots. Turns out, the groomsmen brought a flask in the limo. But I didn't mind. It was our day, and I loved him exactly as he was, a little tipsy, a little teary, and absolutely mine. We got through our vows with shaky voices and full hearts. Then we walked out into a sea of cheering guests, showered with flower petals and Polaroid flashes. That moment was magic. Then came the reception. And that's where things got strange. The dance floor was popping. My brother had shown up with a bottle of coffee liqueur and was passing it around like he was tending bar. I caught him slipping shots into people's plastic cups while winking at my grandma. Typical. The energy was high. Everyone was in celebration mode. My husband and I did the rounds, stopping by each table to hug relatives, thank friends, pose for photos. That's when we arrived at his college friend Dave's table. Dave had RSVP'd with a date, someone I didn't know. She was petite, brunette, and wearing a tight, short white cocktail dress. Not cream, not champagne, white. Bridal white. Now, I know some brides lose their minds when other people wear white. But I've never cared about that stuff. My own cousin wore a white slip dress, and a few other relatives showed up in shades of ivory. Whatever. I had the veil, the train, the bouquet. No one was mistaking me for anything other than the bride. Or so I thought. When we got to their table, Dave was sitting with his girlfriend on his lap. She had a cup of my brother's drink in her hand, and she was clearly drunk. Her body swayed when she talked. She laughed too hard. You could see it in her eyes. She had passed the fun buzz zone and was deep into someone get her some water territory. My husband said hi. I smiled politely. And then she stood up. Or tried to. As she got off Dave's lap, she lost her balance and stumbled forward. Her drink went flying, right into the front of my dress. A full cup of creamy, sticky coffee liqueur splattered across the bodice and down the skirt. I froze. So did everyone around us. And then she giggled. Oopsie. I could feel the damp fabric clinging to me. I looked down and saw the brown stain blooming like a bruise on my wedding gown. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Instead, I forced a laugh, said it was fine, and walked to the bathroom with one of my bridesmaids. We spent the next 20 minutes blotting my dress with damp paper towels and trying not to panic. It didn't really help. The dress was stained. There was no hiding it. But what could I do? Cry? Leave my own wedding? So I laughed. I said, it'll be funny later. We cleaned up the best we could and went back out. Dave and his girlfriend were gone. I assumed they left early. She was clearly drunk, and I figured she was too embarrassed to face anyone. I told myself it was an accident. One of those wedding mishaps that make for good stories. And that was that. Or so I thought. 17 years passed. My husband and I built a life. We had a son, a house, a dog. Every now and then I'd mention the coffee liqueur incident at parties, always laughing it off. I framed it as a silly memory. Remember the girl who spilled her drink on me at my own wedding? Then one evening, our 15-year-old son was asking us about our wedding. He wanted to hear the funny stories. So I told him about the flower girl who ran down the aisle instead of walking, the toast that went off script, the wrong song that played during the cake cutting, and of course, the girl who spilled her drink on me. We all laughed. My husband chuckled and casually said, "Yeah, I kicked them out." I turned to him. "Wait. What?" "Dave and his girlfriend," he said. "I asked them to leave right after you went to the bathroom." I blinked. "Why?" "I thought they just slipped out." My husband shook his head. "Nope. I told them to go. Because she did it on purpose." I sat there stunned. He went on to explain. Apparently, the girlfriend didn't know I was the bride. She thought my cousin, the one in the white slip dress, was. Because we looked alike and because, well, apparently she wasn't paying much attention. She told Dave she thought I was just a guest who showed up wearing a full wedding dress to someone else's wedding. She thought I was trying to steal attention from the real bride, my own cousin. She thought I was being rude. So, in her tipsy logic, she decided to teach me a lesson by spilling her drink on me. She never realized I was the actual bride. Not during the vows. Not during the first dance. Not during the toasts or the cake cutting. Not even when people referred to me by name over the mic. She spent the entire wedding thinking she was doing the right thing. That she was some kind of fashion police hero saving the day. And then she left. Still clueless. I sat there, 17 years later, processing this. At first I was shocked. Then I laughed. A deep, incredulous, "you have got to be kidding me" kind of laugh. I couldn't believe it. She didn't just spill her drink. She targeted me. She tried to ruin my moment. And it didn't work. Because even though I had coffee liqueur dripping down my dress, I was still married. Still dancing. Still surrounded by people who loved me. Her little act of sabotage didn't take anything away from that. I looked at my husband and said, "Why didn't you tell me?" He smiled. "Because you're an Aries." And he's right. If I had known back then, if I had found out during the reception that someone intentionally ruined my wedding dress out of pure ignorance and pettiness, I would have gone nuclear. I would have confronted her. Maybe flipped a table. Maybe screamed. He wanted to protect the peace. And honestly, I'm glad he did. The moment stayed frozen in my memory as a weird, funny accident. I never got angry. Never let it ruin the night. And now that I know the truth, I can still laugh. But wow. Somewhere out there, a woman still believes she did the right thing. She still thinks she spotted a fashion faux pas and served justice. Meanwhile, I've been happily married for 17 years, with the greatest wedding story in my back pocket. And the dress? It's boxed away in the attic. Still stained. Still mine. A reminder that sometimes, even when people try to bring you down, they end up embarrassing themselves instead. So here's to her. The self-appointed wedding cop. The girl who accidentally targeted the bride. And here's to me. A little sticky, a little stunned, but married and laughing through it all. Because revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's just a great story you get to tell later, with a big smile and a cup of coffee liqueur in hand.